Namaste, a very warm welcome to Maitreya On Your Story. Today, I have Shraddha Patnala with me. Well, it's a very, very special day today because I have interviewed her mom, also Dr. Sunita Chandrasekhar Srinivas, and she's here with me, her daughter Shraddha Patnala. Extremely happy that I'll be able to talk to you from your perspective. I will be able to introspect and also add in a lot of value to people who are just looking out for starting new and having a new chapter in their life. So thank you so much, Shraddha, for coming in today. I'm very happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Smita. It's lovely to be talking to you on this platform. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, introducing Shraddha Patnala. She is a journalist. Also, she's into web designing, content creation, a lot of freelancing. Well, it's amazing to talk to you, Shraddha. Talking about certification in journalism. How did it all happen? And in a foreign country, how did the whole experience go?
Well, it started off, journalism wasn't an option that I thought of or considered before I began applying to the university. So it was more of a curiosity, seeing as I studied and favored languages and I enjoyed writing. So, journalism seemed the most appropriate, most interesting option compared to other subjects for me. I mean, I also took law for the first year of university because I was curious to see, okay, which path will I take at the end of this year? And towards the end, I was like, I think I like journalism more because it's versatile. It allows me to it's not rigid in the same way that law is. And also it will allow me to practice my craft wherever I see fit, not necessarily, licensed only in South Africa and then nowhere else. So as an effort to keep my options open, journalism was the way forward and something that I truly enjoyed as well, all 4 years of it. So yeah.
Good to hear that. Well, coming to your professional journey, many of them do the certification in one course and they think, yes, this is my arena. This is my framework. I need to establish myself here only. But unlike you, and I do think I have this, we have this in common. We've done a certification in one thing and then moved on to explore other areas. So I do know you have a website, you do website designing, you have a field in, you have a creative side to yourself in content creation and other things. What took you to change the direction to explore more, and what advice would you give to people who are looking for that change but still holding back to whatever they're doing?
Okay. So I will approach this question from a systemic point of view. So at the moment, the formula is once you finish your high school, you go into university. Once you get your degree, your basic degree, it would be ideal, should you have the funding or the inclination or both, to pursue a higher degree, right? A master's or a PhD, whatever. And then you get a job. And it's hard to say, okay, what does a job entail? Should I be doing a 9 to 5? Should I be, working on a contractual basis? Like, what does a job constitute?
Absolutely.
And I didn't really give it much thought until recently, because I realized, oh, well, my master's is ending. I am about to submit my thesis. I have nothing lined up, which sounds irresponsible, to be honest. As an Indian child, you have to have your ducks in a row.
You mean to say that's one after the other, it's all planned.
Yeah, you have to have a plan. You have to have a stepping stone before you leave the one that you're on.
Absolutely.
So that the way I was raised, and I know this will most likely resonate with other people of Indian origin, is that education is key and stability is key. Because without those two, you are not going to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I mean, education is now complete. Like as formal certification goes, I have completed nearly all of them. It's just the PhD that's missing, and once I have something to research, I'll go after that. But at the moment, I am almost done. And I think the job part of it was scary because this entire time I have been in a very sheltered environment, not from the world, as in, my family saying, no, don't do this, don't do that. It's more about just the idea that I've always worked, my student jobs, my teaching assistant positions in the university. So I had a structure within which to work. And because it was a part-time job, I could manage both my studies and, the research assistant position, teaching assistants, and so on. So because I worked in the structure, there was no 9 to 5. And the kind of job requirements were limited. I mean, this was a part-time job. It was only meant to add to the living costs of being a student and support me. It wasn't necessarily experience in the way of industry experience, which is what I was sorely lacking. And so that's what I realized when I was doing my interviews for, jobs, like a real adult grown-up job. And it was a lot. I was rejected multiple times, and that was not fun. And being someone who is not rejected very often in terms of, a process where there's an application involved and, I put my best foot forward, my best foot here wasn't good enough. And the other thing that I also realized was that I was pursuing this job option only because that was, in my mind, the next step. It wasn't necessarily something that I was interested in, something that I could be committed to. And I would lose interest and become, a duller version of myself. And so this sort of hit me about halfway through the process, about after like 2-3 months of job hunting and giving interviews. I wasn't really keen. Even when I interviewed with one of my favorite newspapers in South Africa to work as a journalist for them, I wasn't committed fully. Like inside me, I didn't feel that spark of saying, oh my God, I'm doing this. I'm really excited. And I want to keep doing it every day from now on. And I didn't have that spark in me. And I think, I think the scary part was, if I could not support myself with my skills, what use are they? Right? There's no use for me having studied for so long and not do anything with them. And that's when I started thinking and having conversations with people I trust, the actual adults in my life, my mom, my family, friends, my friends who do work, adult jobs. And their experience over the last 2 years, what it meant to them, how it works. I started asking questions. And those questions seemed naive, and they were. I didn't have any experience to begin with. So I had to ask those questions and be vulnerable with people I could trust so that I would get honest answers and I could be honest with myself and say, okay, Shraddha, the 9 to 5 isn't working for you. You don't like it. So what do you want?
Well, this is a significant point, because most of them do not listen to, do not pause, do not
Mm.
think. It's just follow a pattern, follow a protocol of what my dad
Mm.
did, what my parents did, or what my elders are doing, my sisters are doing,
Yeah.
whatever. I need to
Yeah.
follow that
Yeah.
protocol to stay secure, to stay happy. So
Yeah.
maybe the one point which you significantly mentioned was talk to people whom you trust. That makes a major
Yes.
difference as to giving you that confidence and trust that you can
Yeah.
explore, more than what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So that's great. So how did this whole thing happen? The website, designing, content creation, and it's really amazing, to see someone young to come up with
Thank
something
you.
on their own. And when I did
Mm.
look at your website, it's as unique as you are. That
Thanks.
authenticity is there. It's an honest
Mhm.
approach. So also want to listen from you as to what advices or what key points you would want to tell to people who are starting out new on this whole
Mhm.
online website creation.
Okay. So I created my website as an online portfolio to
Mm-hmm,
begin with.
mm-hmm,
This was, in essence, all the work that I'd done
mm-hmm,
over the last 6 years of university, four for undergrad, two for masters.
mm-hmm,
Um, and it was also an attempt at teaching myself to believe in the work that I've done
mm-hmm.
and showcase it in a professional manner. That professional as in authentically professional, not just industry professional.
Mm, mm.
So apologies for that. There's a
No
car
problem.
alarm going off.
Absolutely
Um,
fine.
so
Mm,
so what prompted me was to have my work known, to have
mm,
my skills out there, to
mm,
show um, practical examples of my writing,
mm,
the range that I have covered so far,
mm.
what I want to do. So it wasn't just a, a dump and dash. It's like I wasn't just
Exactly.
giving you information and then leaving. I
Mm,
was giving you information and asking, okay, do you want this for you or your
mm,
company? And
mm,
if so, get in touch with me. Let's talk. I
mm,
wanted a dialogue, a channel of communication to open with people
mm,
I hadn't worked with before.
mm,
That was the goal. Um, and then it slowly turned into a website where I actually advertised my skills, not just had a portfolio of past work,
mm,
but it was also a representation of my current learning because I got interested in user experience design um, a few weeks after my thesis submission.
mm,
Um, I wasn't really sure where I was going with it, but I really liked the idea of
mm,
simplifying complexity through design,
mm.
but not through artsy design, which was
Absolutely.
like graphic design, which is a
Mm,
very serious and important part of digital
mm,
communication.
mm,
But this is um, like when you look at an app, for example, when you use WhatsApp, everybody uses WhatsApp, and now it's become so ubiquitous that when someone says I got blue ticked, it means
mm.
your message was read,
It's
but no one
red.
responded to you.
True.
So
Mm,
that kind of small design to tell people, oh, your message has been read, but no response yet because you haven't
mm,
received anything back.
mm,
Um, that small design feature
mm.
has become a social phenomenon now. It's become
Absolutely.
a meme. It's
Mm.
become something you can complain about. It's become
Yes.
something you do to other people.
Yes.
Um, so UX design has this practical element that you input
Mm.
into a platform,
Mm.
something that people use, and it
Yes.
is to ensure that the um, largest possible amount of information, relevant
Mm.
information, is communicated in the smallest possible way, in the
Mm.
most simple way that people
Yes.
will understand, recognize, remember, and
Mm-hmm.
then use.
True.
Um, so, based on all of that research that I was
Mm-hmm.
doing,
Mm-hmm.
I figured when I built my website, I
Mm-hmm.
would draw from my online learning
Mm-hmm.
and all the YouTube rabbit holes that I dove into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and put it into my website. So it
So was the
was,
response welcoming?
yeah. So at the beginning, my website was only like 2-3 pages because it was writing, it was photography, and it was videos and audio editing from my university days. Now it's become more of collaborations that I've been doing.
Yes.
So these, collaborations, range from Indian. Oh, hi Penny. From Indian
So
academic work. Thank you. This is Panini. She, thank you. Her foster mother gave it to her. We decided to keep it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So she's trying to come say hello, but she knows she's not allowed, and there's no other way to get onto the table. Oh, never mind. She's on the table now.
Awesome. Cats always find their way,
Cool. So yeah, back to my website. The collaborations that I uploaded on there, where I wrote about them, I sort of described the work that I was doing. I gave practical examples of the work that I was doing with the team. Most of it was academic because that was my forte. But over the last 3 months, I've been collaborating with another design agency in Durban, South Africa, run by my university friend.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
That's
cat. And so since I've joined her sort of initiative, her company as a partner, my agency partners with hers as a operations partner, where I look out for the structure and sort of processes that we work with alongside the clients, and also as a content creator. So I design, I write, I edit, I suggest. So there's lots of new avenues that I hadn't explored before that have come to me through the existence of my website. So it was something that I believed in, and I put all of my work in there. And the return that it gave me was recognition from people that I trusted, which now brings me to where I am now, like today, where I can proudly say for the last 3 months, my agency has been doing really good work. We've expanded to international clients in Mauritius and Botswana and Kenya and Nigeria and in India. We do radio show production. We, create websites. We write articles. We post on social media. We strategize for them. So yeah, like
it's amazing.
The website was a launching pad, and I cannot, and I cannot thank my foresight in a way enough, where I was like, it doesn't matter if you're not getting any money out of this at the moment, just do it. And I told my mom, I told my friends, and their support is what made this possible, where I could just work on something without feeling guilty that nothing is coming out of it yet.
Yes. That's the point. Many people would start off initially and they want the 100% results immediately. Well, that's when they kind of, they're skeptical whether to do it, whether to go forward or not. Maybe what you said was have patience and let it run for a certain amount of time. Then you will receive the right amount of appreciation. This is a very, very valid point. Well, coming to your mom, well, during her interview as well, I did tell her that, she's a gem of a person, a parent whom usually most women want to kind of follow certain protocols. as
Yes.
such, but I did speak to her from a parent perspective. Now I want you, as her daughter, to tell you
Mhm.
what kind of parenting is important and how the right kind of parenting, if there is a right kind of parenting, exists. How has it molded you to be what you are today?
Okay. Um, that is a very big question to
Yes.
answer. Um, you know, I've had the privilege of having a mother who
Mm,
has not, okay, I wouldn't say who has shown me the way,
mhm.
because her way is not the same as mine.
Absolutely,
But
yes.
what she has done is given me a blueprint,
Mhm,
um, in which I am allowed to pursue my anything,
mhm.
literally.
Your dream, follow your
Per-
dream, follow your heart.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Both intellectually and, like personally,
Mhm,
professionally and personally.
mhm,
My mom has done this fun little thing where it's very annoying sometimes, but
mhm,
she does this thing where she says, you know what, if my suggestions are not working for you and you want to do whatever you are currently doing and you are
mhm,
not going to listen to me,
mhm.
it's fine. I will follow you on your path and I will be there with you. And if you fall, I'll catch you. If you need support, I'll stand next to you. If you need
Mm.
guidance, I will stand in front of you and, I'll figure out a way for you to make this
Wow.
work.
Yes.
Um, and so it was it was new
Mhm.
because it felt like Amma was in my life all the time.
Absolutely.
Um, and I couldn't ever be like rebellious because she was literally with me on
Mm.
the journey. And I was
Yeah.
like, Mama, you are not 13. And then at 16, I was like, Amma, you're not 16.
Mhm.
And now at
Yes.
25, I'm like, Amma, you're not 25. But
Mhm.
by now, I've figured out that her having gotten off my back and stood
Mm.
behind me and
Yes.
stood next to me and
Mhm.
stood in front of me when I needed it and when I
Mhm.
asked for it,
Mhm.
um, has made me into a more independent person because she left me alone to do my thing.
Mm.
And not just left me alone, but she trusted me to remember where I come from
Mhm.
and trusted me to recognize the sort of warning signs ahead of
Mhm.
me if they were any.
Yes. Mhm.
So she had this mantra that she just put in my head for the last 20 years.
Mhm.
I'm saying 20 because it was only around age 5 when I started to remember what she was
Mm.
saying.
True.
Um, so for the last 20 years, she's been saying, if anything hurts you, your body, your mind, and your soul, it is not worth it. No matter
Mm.
how much money it's giving you, no matter how much like appreciation or recognition that it gives you, if it makes you feel bad,
Mm.
you step back and you reassess and you ask for help, but you don't continue. That is
Oh,
the
wow.
bottom line.
I'm literally
And
getting goosebumps as to, yes, this is so profound. Parents talk about so many things as to you have to be successful, be secure, and, make us proud and whatnot. But being your mom the way she is, I did expect something really profound. Yes, you did tell that to me now. I mean, it's amazing to allow your child to do what the child wants to do, ensuring
Mhm.
that, the parent is there always, if
I
necessary.
think I think that's the part that gets tricky because
Mm-hmm.
that whole idea of allowing
Mm.
somebody to do something means that there is a power imbalance.
Yes.
If you are trying, so what I learned from my mom is, if you know when I was a teenager, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really very naughty. I was,
Mm-hmm.
the usual experimentation,
Mm.
boys,
Yes.
romantic novels,
Mm-hmm.
and
The normal stuff.
being,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
normal things, normal
Yeah.
teenage things.
Mm-hmm.
um Wanting to wear shorts
Mm.
and strap tops and like it, I just
Yeah.
wanted to feel like an adult, but I was honestly too young. So where she was like, okay, there are the boundaries that you can sort of push and expand, and like they're flexible, but there are other boundaries that are brick walls that have only one door and you don't have the key to that door yet. Like it was a bit like gaming in a way. Like there were levels. As I grew up, there were more things that I could do, not necessarily things that my mother liked, but they were age appropriate. So in that regard, where she said, I'm not allowing you to do this, was where it could, as an adult, she had the foresight to be like, okay, this is going to hurt you, body, mind, and spirit. We are not, this is non-negotiable. But there were other parts, where if I chose to read a book for an entire evening and not do my homework, if I asked her, can I please add another instrument to my, music education? So I was playing the piano. I didn't like the piano. I could leave it. I'd switch to the clarinet. She supported it. I added vocals, and then I returned to the piano. So I was doing like 3 different things for music education. She was like, you do you, it's fine, as long as you know why you are doing it. Because the idea was, as a child, as a growing child, I needed to learn my own limits. So those flexible boundaries were the boundaries where I could be like, Mama, I don't feel like doing any homework today, or Mama, I don't feel like going to school today. Can you please call the secretary and let her know that I'm not coming? And she'll be like, okay, you can come to office with me. And I would sit there and read a book, talk to people, talk to her, go on walks, whatever. But she gave me that space without saying you are allowed, without saying the word allow. Instead, she said, whatever you want to do, as long as you have a valid reason and you can argue for it, and you can show me that you are grown up enough and responsible enough to see what could go wrong from this decision.
Yes,
you are fine.
I
You do what you
think
want.
this whole concept of giving a choice to the child, she
Mm.
did tell me in her talk as to when you were 5 year old, maybe she did offer you a choice between 2 dresses. So
Yeah.
which color would you want to choose? So that is like, moving ahead. You did know what your limits are, what is
Yeah.
freedom and what is independence. So that starts, I mean, I think you need to start young as a parent to start
Yes.
allowing your child to choose.
Yes. And I think the allowing the child to choose also means that you have to learn to step back, and that's
True.
difficult.
Absolutely.
I think there have been many, many times where I have driven my mother mad because I I wasn't the easiest person. Yeah, because like despite our easy channel of communication, I can tell her everything.
Yes.
But there are also times when she's like, I absolutely disagree, you crazy child. What are you doing with your life? And she had to be okay with that. She had to be okay with just asking questions and not getting a direct answer until I figured it out. And I think she has had enough time to practice over the last 25 years. And I have had enough practice to be independent with that idea of independence comes with responsibility.
Absolutely.
Where just because I'm, free to do whatever I please, I'm not going to mess up my life over a boy or over a job or over, my own desire to own like a bunch of fountain pens, for example. I'm not going to spend my entire paycheck on that.
Absolutely.
So small things all the way to like the life level things.
Yes.
I think that that flexible boundary and the brick wall boundary, to which I only got the key after a certain point. Yeah, that was very useful system.
so nice to hear, things differently from you, but yet in the same framework. Well, I think if we talk about Sunita, we would, talk the entire time. That's how she is. It's amazing, I'm so blessed to have a friend like her. So, really.
I'm glad.
Well, talking about spirituality,
Mhm.
what is your idea of spirituality?
Um, I think it's pretty much summed up with do no harm but take no shit. So
Mm,
spirituality for me is where you do the best you are able to do in your
mhm,
circumstance, and you never sort of refuse. You don't close doors. The
mhm,
whole idea of being spiritual is that you are open to new experiences,
mhm,
new ways of thinking, and new ways of being.
mhm.
So while that openness gives a sense of, great positivity and
Yes,
a sense of peace with your decisions because you know
mhm,
you made the right choice.
yes,
Um, at the same time, you don't have to stick with those decisions if they are not working out for you anymore.
yes. True.
So, while you are actively giving and receiving from the world, you don't have
Mhm,
to receive and give everything.
mhm,
You are allowed to maintain a sense of self and say, okay, this is for me,
mhm,
and this the rest of it you are welcome to.
Maybe
There
that self
and
priority, self care is very important to give back to the society. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So I I don't think I mean I suppose I have to learn more
Mhm,
about the varieties of spiritualities that exist.
mhm.
I need to expand my reading and listen to people who've
Mm,
practiced
true.
this idea for longer than I have even
Mhm,
lived.
mm,
So there's a lot of learning to do on my part, and I
yes.
and I definitely acknowledge that.
Mhm,
But I think my idea of spirituality comes from having grown up in a semi conservative, semi modern Hindu household.
mhm,
Because like the the grandmothers, Nanama and Namama, were very religious. They were
mhm,
very pro praying and
mm,
pro, putting money in the hundi and
mm.
pro, like, doing abhishekam
Proper.
on the
Yes.
all like, you
Mm,
have to do archanam and do all the right sort of rituals. They were big
mhm.
on ritual.
True.
And whereas my grandfathers,
Mhm,
Tatya and Tata were like, they prayed too. They did
mhm,
the same things, their respective wives were doing.
mhm,
Um, but they lent me some insight, and they built up this foundation of, you know, even the gods made mistakes.
mm,
Our gods, they are like people. They make mistakes. They covet. They are
mhm,
jealous.
mm,
They are egotistical.
mm.
They have very strange ideas about where and what a woman should be doing.
Yes.
So I was raised on a variety of, stories um, of gods and queens
Mhm.
and kings and demons, and there was a lot of these
Yes.
ideas of you
Mm,
know morality and justice, and
mm,
so these big ideas reduced to, like, very small stories
mhm.
and a chain
Yes.
of stories that stretched from the very early months of my life all the
Mhm,
way to now.
mm.
I think they have given me an understanding that spirituality is a spectrum.
True.
And while I can be super ritualistic and wake up early,
Mm,
head bath on the right days, pray, light the lamp, which I used to do at
mhm,
home,
mm,
at the moment, I'm like, I wake up and I turn to, my little Ganesha idol, and I'm like,
mm.
hello, good morning.
Yeah. You're
Thanks for
more
keeping me safe.
friendly towards a
Yeah,
friendly approach.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that is allowed. And that's
True.
what I like, because I know my roots but I also know where I want to go, and
Mm.
that path is not ritualistic.
Correct.
It is a more truer, more more accepting path that you can't pray every single day, because honestly, you have to stop asking for stuff and start actually acting on the things that you have, so that you can make it
Absolutely.
better through your efforts,
Also,
rather than ask
yeah,
somebody to fix it.
true. Also, this fact of you, being having a friendlier approach, a lighter approach, says that you don't
Mm,
fear God, which most of them have that fear of, I need to go to the temple on Saturday or something's going to happen to me. I need to do
mm,
the Abhishek, otherwise, no, something's going to happen to me. So that fear of, okay, I need to pray because of this is not there.
yeah,
So you've reached a
yeah.
level of, having that faith in whatever you're doing. That's,
Mm.
that's amazing.
I think, yeah, I'm very grateful to the family structure that I
Mm-hmm.
was raised in,
Mm-hmm.
because it gave me a strong sense of identity, one,
Mm-hmm.
um, and two, it gave me a sense of belonging through that identity. I could say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm, I know
Yes.
what my beliefs are,
Mm-hmm.
and I know because I know my stories, I know my histories, I
Mm-hmm.
know my languages. Um, I know my culture to a
Mm-hmm.
very like visceral extent, where I
Exactly.
don't have to change. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
went through the phases of, I'm not wearing a bindi,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking in Marathi or Telugu.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized how important it was,
Mm-hmm.
because at one point around first grade to third grade age, when I was like 7 to 9 years old, we had just moved to South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and my teacher was very concerned after this one picture that I drew in class,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then she asked my parents to come, take
Wow.
a look at this picture.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a little bit, she wasn't mad, but she was
Okay.
like concerned. So
Upset or
my
concerned.
parents,
Mm-hmm.
no, not even upset. I think she was just like confused.
Okay.
She wasn't sure how to deal with it. So she asked
Mm-hmm.
my parents to come take a look, and my parents were like, "Oh, okay." And then they saw the picture. It was a lovely family, two
Mm-hmm.
parents, one child, me, my parents,
Mm-hmm.
in picture form, but the skin was white. It wasn't brown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So there was a little like
Yeah.
schism
As
between
to,
what I
yeah.
am and what I thought I should be, as a
Oh.
very young and misguided child,
Mm.
new to a country where I had never experienced like this kind of racial spectrum ever
Correct.
before. Because India,
Yes.
everybody looked like me, so I make all the people in my picture brown,
Yes.
with bindis and a sari and
Mm.
stuff. And here,
Mm.
there was a difference in clothing,
Mm.
difference in lack of bindi,
Absolutely.
all sorts of cultural markers were
Mm-hmm.
absent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the most relevant of all of them,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry about that.
Absolutely fine.
And the
Mm-hmm.
most relevant of all of them was the fact that the skin was changed completely.
Mm.
And that was the time my father asked me a very interesting
Mm-hmm.
question. He said, I mean, it's fine if you don't want to wear a bindi. Like, that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't get extra marks for wearing
Mm.
one. But are you okay with losing a part of yourself to a culture that you don't know, to a culture that can be very easily, it can swallow you
Mm.
up and spit you
Absolutely.
out, and you won't recognize yourself.
Mm.
So, what do you want to remember of yourself so you can
Mm.
come back to your
Oh,
identity?
yes.
That was a very big question for
Oh,
a small
wow.
child.
Absolutely. I mean, it is like, yeah, whether you should go back to your thoughts as to what exactly happened, or
Mm,
you're just having that peer pressure, or what exactly is happening in the mind. But what one significant point was, you're losing a part of your identity. Oh God, Usually many of them wouldn't know how to react. They would be like, okay, it's just another day where she's feeling,
Mm, mm.
she wanted to be white, or she wants to be familiar, or she wants to look alike, to others.
To
But
the new
then, yeah,
friends, yeah.
absolutely. But then I think it's the right point to make at the right time, not
Yeah.
ignoring the child's confusion in the mind. Most parents do that. The
Mm,
minute you
mm,
find somebody who's dark skinned,
mm,
that insecurity, I have seen many of them who are very pretty, extremely talented, but
mm.
have this thing of, okay, I'm not as fair as somebody else.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, so, it was a personal reckoning of sorts. I
Mm.
had to, I mean, it took me years. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's taken me a good 15 years to
Wow.
get comfortable with my skin, my
Mm.
identity, my values. I think at this point I have the confidence to say if you don't like what I'm saying
Mhm.
and wearing, and if you don't like the fact that I'm
Mhm.
Indian,
Mm.
we can get on with it. Like, you don't have
Exactly.
to be my best friend. It's
Yeah,
fine.
true. World is
It's
big
fine.
enough.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm proud. I'm prouder than ever before because
Mm.
I am giving my identity a sort of change
Mm.
to adapt to the modern world
Yes.
while still sort of embracing that little girl who,
Mm. Yes.
liked taking Nana's saris and wearing them when she was taking a nap.
Mm. Oh,
Um, and
yes.
taking Amma's jewelry and putting them on.
Mm.
And it was like, while jewelry and saris don't make a whole identity,
Mm-hmm.
I have it was through those as vehicles
True.
to access, the meaning behind it.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Absolutely.
so I never really felt too lost. My
Mm.
parents were very supportive about the whole being Indian,
Mm-hmm.
and being comfortable in one's skin and um, one's skills
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, as people of color who came to South Africa, we we hadn't experienced racism
Mm-hmm.
before.
Yes.
How caste is experienced in India is how race is
Mm-hmm.
experienced in South Africa,
Mm.
and it just as an equivalent.
Mm.
So, like,
Yes.
my parents had to deal with a whole new sort of
Mm-hmm.
rank system, which was not great because they came here with sharp minds and
Mm-hmm.
a hope for a new experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And they were excited to sort of show me
Mm.
what is the possibilities that can be experienced in this
Yes.
country.
Yes.
But at the same time,
Mm.
while we had to embrace, eating with a knife and fork, or having pizzas for dinner, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and embracing that like Western sort of
Mm.
culture,
Yes.
it was very important at home to um, remember who we are,
Mm. Exactly.
without having some other like person's lens upon us. Like, we
Mm.
don't view
Yes.
ourselves through their eyes as Indian people. We see through our eyes as Indian people. Like, we
Mm.
don't. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So it was very interesting growing up
Also,
here.
yeah, lot of stories. It's amazing to
Mm,
hear the stories. Well, I think you must be one lucky girl to have amazing, supportive parents, and also your parents should be lucky enough to have you. Well, not many people, not many girls who are in your age would take that responsibility to make something out of life, meaningful life, purposeful life.
mm,
Not many people
mm,
take that or embrace that freedom like how you
mm.
are embracing it. It's really, really good to know this.
Thank you.
Coming to, I think, last but one question: define success and
Mm.
happiness.
why must you hurt me in this way?
Okay, that's a big
No, no,
question.
I don't mind. It's just so big.
Yeah, I
In
know.
that,
Maybe just
in that.
simply simplify it to, um, help our
Hmm,
viewers understand what real success means and what happiness means.
I think watching, I suppose from my grandfathers
Mm-hmm.
and also my parents,
Mm-hmm.
I think especially my mom,
Mm-hmm.
where there were she had this idea of, okay, you know, if a door is not opening for you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to at least start by knocking on it first.
True.
You
Absolutely.
can't expect people to just like throw the doors open and say, "Oh, we've been waiting for you. Come save us."
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of my ideas of happiness and success,
Mm-hmm.
it it stems from that foundation of you have to make your own,
Mm-hmm.
because no one else is going to come here and be responsible for your happiness and your success.
Mm-hmm.
So, as parents, you are responsible for your children's happiness and success, because they can't fend for themselves. So you
Yes.
have to help them, get to a
Mm-hmm.
point where they can look out for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to friendships and relationships, and I'm not just saying like personal relationships, I'm also
Mm-hmm.
saying like professional ones where, um, you know, the partners that you are working with,
Mm-hmm.
the bosses who, work
Yes.
above you,
Mm-hmm.
the people who may or may not work, below you in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the professional hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make an effort to find the positive and give the positive. It's that
Mm-hmm.
you get what you give.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
my idea of success is where I am getting what I give,
Mm-hmm.
and I have seen that to be the case. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy. So
Mm-hmm.
because I don't attach my idea of success and happiness to another person, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a big lesson that I've picked up from my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and all the relationships and friendships that I have experienced professionally and personally,
Mm-hmm.
um, I I expect what I give
Mm-hmm.
in return. So yeah, so I think. Oh, and also contradictory to my statement just now,
Mm-hmm.
expectations are just the mother of all screw ups.
Yes,
Um,
expectation leads to
it,
disappointments.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep. So while I know I'm contradicting myself, and I think that's part of life. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
say something, you're like, ah, no, that's not right. We're gonna
I
gonna
know.
backtrack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I think expecting someone else to take the responsibility for
Mm-hmm.
my happiness and my success
Mm-hmm.
is the wrong idea.
Mm-hmm.
However, fair to fair to expect to get what you give.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, the
So
one thing what you
yeah.
told is success and happiness is subjective. Your success might
Yes.
not be my success, or my success might not be your success, and the same goes to
Mm-hmm.
happiness. So, comparing yourself to somebody like who's
Mm.
successful in that sense doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense, because they have their own successes and happiness defined for themselves in life. So I think
Mm.
that
Mm.
that one is a major point in your talk. Well,
But
mhm,
I would like to add that your parents or your relatives or your
mhm,
society's ideas of success should not define yours.
absolutely.
It will inform it, because
Mm-hmm,
there are times when I'm like, what, Shraddha, what are you doing? You don't have a job.
mm-hmm,
um, what are you doing with your life? I have to remind myself that what I'm doing is worthwhile,
mm-hmm,
and I am successful and I am happy in
mm-hmm,
what I have chosen to do. And I think that ability to make that choice,
mm-hmm,
um, and the space that you have to either fight for, as I have, in a way, in a very silent, subtle way, where I have been like, okay, if you don't like my decision, that is fine. I am a grown woman and I am taking this decision. You don't have to like it. You are a grown person. You can learn to deal with this. At the same time, there are people in the family and in the friend circle who are like, yeah, Shraddha's taking this decision. We're here to support. We are here to cheer on.
Yes.
So I think identifying where to be selfish and say, my idea of success and happiness is my priority.
True.
And it doesn't have to be yours, and it doesn't have to be the same. And that kind of bravery, it's dangerous.
Yes.
As a brown girl, I have learned that you either have good relations with your society and your family, or you have opinions. So balancing that is difficult, and you, I think, if you're going to be brave and follow your ideas of success and happiness, you are going to have to be okay with losing people who you thought would be there with you, because they have very different ideas of what you should have done or should be doing. And you are not doing those things, so you are therefore a bad child. It is what it is. So
coming to our last question, well, people or girls who are in your age, maybe 24 to 30, well, that is when they're deciding as to which path to choose. They're so confused to listen to parents, to listen to themselves, to follow their dream, to take that leap. It's all confusing state, when it comes to marriage and when it comes to settling down, or you have to do something on your own. So what do you want to tell these young girls, maybe younger to you also, less than 25, as to do what it takes to make you happy? What do you want to tell to them as to take that big leap and not to let go of their dreams, not to somewhere down the line, finish everything off, whatever they had dreamt of, it's all packed, locked. So, and later in life, thinking about what I should have done previously. Like, not everybody are so privileged as you. I mean, in the
fair
sense,
enough.
parents
Yeah.
are supportive, you're free to do what you want to do. But when I talk to so many young girls, they are so confused. They are so confused as to what should I do. So, in simple terms, if you can tell few sentences which make a difference to them.
Okay. I think it's difficult because I don't have the same lived experience. So I have to acknowledge that my advice, no matter how heartfelt and and sort of general, it won't sit with everybody in the same way. So that's my disclaimer.
Or maybe what we can, I mean, I will rephrase the question for you. Well, they do have the independence, they do have the funding, they do have the support from the parents, but still they're hesitating to take that big leap, to take that independence on. So,
okay. In terms of independence, I think it has to be. So sometimes it's something that you are forced to do, where, like I chose to remain in South Africa, continue my education, and live here until I decide to move elsewhere. While my parents were deciding to go to India. And I made a very active and sort of it was brave and it was stupid. I don't regret it, but it was stupid in the way that, there was a lot of tension in the family where they were worried that, I was, I was alone. There's literally no
and
other direct family member in the country, but I had a very good network of family friends. I had wonderful friends of my own age whom I studied with, whose parents I know personally. It's like I wasn't alone. So in that way, that decision to be independent was something that I chose because I could see no other way to be happy, because I wasn't prepared to go back to India under any circumstance. I've been there, I'd done that, and I was done. Like, I'll come home for holiday, but I'm not living there. So
So maybe
I think
the thing of you telling me that, yes, I know what I didn't want. So the minute...
Yes, it's a process of elimination.
Absolutely, yes. I
So
think
if you're
there it
confused,
goes. Yes.
thank you for bringing that up, because I think the way I came to my decision, because I was also confused. I was 20 years old, or rather 21 at the time. I celebrated my last birthday in South Africa with both my parents. And then I was about to go off to America for 6 months to study abroad. And they were leaving about 2 weeks before I was flying out. And it was all very interesting 6 months. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen, how we were going to leave.
Yes.
Just the terms we were going to leave on and so on. So it was both a logistical and an emotional sort of elements to the decisions to be independent. They had to learn to be okay with me saying, no, I'm not coming with you guys. I love you, but you should go on without me. And I had to be comfortable with not having my parents around
physically not having them.
So that was a lot for a 21-year-old to make that decision. I'm glad I did, because I learned by doing, and it was messy, and it was messy.
Maybe a lot of mistakes, but still,
lots of mistakes. Not like the serious kind, just the eating healthy. In a way, the whole idea of independence comes with responsibility thing that my mom had put inside me made me sort of avoid the financial mistakes, the heartache mistakes, the academic mistakes. So I didn't make those ones, but it was my health, my emotional well-being, what I chose to do with my time when I was supposed to be doing something else. Those kinds of things where your parents usually advised you.
And you miss...
Oh my God, yes.
How do you deal with homesick feeling? Many students studying abroad, they're like, okay, I miss the dal, I miss that, I miss this. Which is your favorite food, and which do you miss a lot?
I have to say that it is all the tiffin foods that I miss. So it's my idli vada.
Proper South Indian.
With the proper filter coffee to go with it.
Wow. Yeah. That's a thumbs up. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So and I mean masala dosas obviously, but those take a bit longer to make. So
do you have restaurants in South Africa where you can get the authentic?
Especially now that I'm in Cape Town, there's a place called the Eastern Food Bazaar, and they have really South African level. They have decent idea of what a masala dosa should be. But I know what I'm missing. I know it, it's got to be nice and orange and crispy, and the masala inside has to be softer than what I'm used to here.
Yes.
So I think when I miss home food, I make it.
Also, Shraddha, I would want to ask you a very significant question. Well, it's a little more personal to me because one of my good friends, struggling with a lot of depression and not able to take a no, considering the fact that she was established, she was, doing what she wanted to do, but finally there was certain phases in her life when she couldn't take a no from anybody else. So, how do
Mm,
you take failures? How do you, want to kind of
mm,
ensure that, yes, this is just an event in my life. This is not my life itself. Considering the
yeah.
number of suicides, considering the number of, depression or whatever the society we are
Mm,
heading into, especially young adults, should be more responsible, should take
yes.
life beautifully as it is, right?
Um, yes and no. I think
Mhm,
when it comes to failures,
mhm,
uh, how hard something hits us
mhm,
is often determined by how much effort went into it from
mhm,
our side as the
mhm,
person doing the work, the
mhm.
project, whatever.
Yes.
But the other thing that is determining the impact of
Mm,
that failure
mhm,
is the expectation that we carry of
mhm,
other people who,
mhm,
want us to succeed.
mm,
So it's not just, especially as women of color,
mm.
um, not just Indian women, but all women of
Yes,
color,
yes.
we
Mhm,
carry a sense of responsibility that is
mhm,
instilled on us um, from the time we are young girls. The
mhm,
moment we can walk, we are asked to do it a certain way. The
mm.
moment we speak, we're asked to do it a certain way. This
Correct.
builds up to the point where the moment we do a degree, we are asked to
Mhm.
do a certain job.
Yes,
We are asked to excel in specific ways.
yes.
And while not all parents or all, parental figures
Mhm,
do this,
mm,
they don't place expectations, that expectation still is very subtly ingrained into us because
mhm,
while it may not be happening to us directly,
mm,
other people our age are
mm.
experiencing this kind of
Yes,
burden of expectation from others.
true.
So between what effort one puts into a project
Mhm,
of any sort and what expectation other people have on that project to succeed, because it ties in directly to your idea of
mhm.
self-worth
Yes.
and your ability to call yourself, a professional
Mhm.
and be proud of yourself as a person.
Yes, yes.
Um, I think it's a volatile combination.
Mm.
Um, it so that is what determines the impact of the failure, right?
Yes, yes.
And it personally, for me, mental health has not been something that was spoken about until much more recently in my life.
Mhm,
Um, Talking to not a therapist, not a professional of any sort for mental health, but even
mhm,
talking to a trusted family member
mm. True.
or a trusted friend, because
Mm.
sometimes family doesn't understand. You
Absolutely.
need somebody in your corner saying the way you
Mm.
are thinking is not wrong. It's
Mm.
valid.
Correct.
Somebody needs to validate the way you are thinking so that
Mm.
you have the support to just push through the
Yes.
failure.
True.
Like the failure is like swimming through honey.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
slow, it's laborious. Going up for air takes more effort
Absolutely. Yes.
than it does in water. So
Mm.
it feels like you are stuck.
Mm.
And that's not a nice place to be. And
Yes.
somebody who can help needs to be identified
Mm.
quickly as a sort of trauma response. So
Mm.
when I failed, I failed. I didn't like fail
Mm.
the
True.
board exams,
Yeah.
but I got straight C's
Mm.
as a predominantly 80s and 90s kind of student.
Mm-hmm.
My self-worth was based on the number that I scored in an exam.
Yes.
And as someone who participated in music, in sports, in house competitions, as the deputy head girl at school, I was expected to succeed. My teachers expected great things from me.
Yes.
They expected commitment, energy, and constant positivity and good grades. My parents, my grandparents also got used to the idea that Shraddha does well at school. So it is expected that she would perform to that level for her board exams. Turns out my mental health was, I'm sorry to say, it was shit. I was in a bad place. And I didn't feel like I knew myself. I mean, outside everything was fine. I still ate well. I worked, and I exercised, and I had decent friendships with people. So I wasn't outwardly, there was no reason for alarm or concern. But if somebody spoke to me, had a heart to heart, yeah, they weren't going to see that same happy person on the outside.
Yes, maybe people who are not judging you to whatever you're going through, that heart-to-heart conversation is so important.
And having that person who doesn't judge you immediately, right? Judging happens whether you trust them or not. But whether they act on that judgment or whether they suppress that judgment and just listen to you so you can get it off your chest, that's what makes that person more trustworthy and more reliable as somebody you would go to when you're in trouble. So personally, I wrote my final exams. I thought I was going to do brilliantly, and I got straight C's for all 4 of my subjects. This was between 50 to 60%. Shraddha doing this is not normal. And the impact that it had was so profound that to this day, I am still not able to do something if it is not going to be completely perfect. And I had to be reminded many, many times that my failures do not define me.
Absolutely.
The way I come out of those failures do.
Yes.
So my mom had to just stand there by my side, reminding me that this is not the end of the line. This is not the end of the world. It is a train smash. Yes. It was not expected. Absolutely. Nobody wanted you to do this. Agreed. Same here. But the outcome is the outcome. And we have to be brave enough to say, okay, I screwed up. There's no way I can do this again. So what am I going to do next? I think having that conversation with my mom to start with, and then picking up the pieces, that takes a few years.
Of course,
that took me a good 2-3 years to get over, because every time I would get anything below a 60, I wasn't prone to hurting myself, but
maybe you're
emotionally, I would be so hard on myself. I would study till 2-3 in the morning, wake up again at 6 and start again. This is not healthy. And it took me a while to accept that not everything is determined by marks. Because the quality of my work, while it is examined, is not going to stand the test of time, because if my skills are not up to par, and only the quality of my argument is, for example, on one essay, that one essay will not determine the rest of my life.
Absolutely, yes.
And I think having that very real perspective from my mother, who was a harsh supporter. She was aggressively present in my life, supporting me. But she was also that kind of support who was like, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to hold up a mirror. Not really, but like whatever you tell me, I want you to hear yourself. Because the way you talk about yourself matters. The way you look at yourself matters. The way you look at your professional work matters. If you do not see any kind of commitment from your side to yourself, what is the point? Like, who are you trying to impress? If you can't impress yourself and believe in yourself, then you are not going to be able to impress anybody else.
Yes.
If that is what you want to do. So she had these very annoyingly good suggestions and advice.
Yes.
And I had to be okay with that, because somebody has to be real with you. If everybody accepts, oh no, she failed, it's fine, give her a hug, we'll look after her.
Doesn't work.
That's fine.
Yes.
You cannot be mollycoddled into being, complacent. Like,
True.
if you need a break, take a break. If you need to step back from this project, leave it. It's fine. But don't become complacent in your failure. Don't accept that this is the only thing that you are capable of doing, because that's not true.
Yes.
And I think you need people you can trust to remind you that, because A, they need to stop judging you and just listen to you. And B, you need to trust them enough to actually act on the advice. So you need to be brave.
Absolutely.
And the important thing is to start being brave and be honest with yourself. It will be messy, but you would have started. And I think that energy builds up. It comes in waves. And when it reaches that sort of crescendo, where you're like, I am at the top of my game, that is another point where you should not be complacent, because you cannot rest on past laurels. And that's another thing my mom taught me. She said, while you cannot wallow and sulk yourself in your failures, you cannot do the same thing with your successes either. You will become a very strange person on the inside. It'll twist you, where you are successful and that's all you see yourself as, and you don't have any growth either.
True.
So,
oh my God.
Yeah, I think
it is like I'm talking to a person who's really kind of experienced life, and this is what it is. This is what true spirituality means: accepting yourself, self-care, going beyond the failures, like how you said. Yes, people, I definitely want to really, really, really emphasize the fact that everybody goes through this phase. Do not be harsh on yourself, and take your time, talk to people, make a phone call to your good friend, or write a journal, do everything it takes. And life is worth living beautifully. It is not just one failure that defines you. Shraddha rightly said, it is not failures that define you. It is what you do after you fail, how you get back up, that defines you. Yes.
Because that gives you a sense of self-pride, where you're like, okay, I messed up, but that's not going to stop me.
Absolutely.
And I think having done that a fair number of times, be it for school exams, be it for strange mishaps during clarinet concerts, these are small. At that age, I felt like I'd made a horrible mistake that would leave a lasting mark on my life. And I think, I think finding your coping method as well is very important.
Yes.
So my coping methods personally don't work for a lot of my friends. They don't work for my mother either. Like, when I tell her, Mama, why don't you try, journaling? She's like, journaling for whom? It doesn't make sense to me. Whereas for me, if I don't write my feelings, I start speaking them. And sometimes speaking your feelings is a very dangerous game.
Yes.
You don't want to be doing that.
Exactly.
So
you sound a little different than what you actually are. Think.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I think writing, so for me, I write my feelings out, and in a way, I'm very privileged to be in a space where no one comes to read my private things.
Yes.
So I'm lucky in that way.
Yes.
But I think another way of writing is not to write physically, but to write yourself an email that's password protected.
Absolutely.
Put it in your draft folder, because then it will be date and time stamped, so you can see your progress.
Absolutely.
So find other ways to protect your personal thoughts, but don't wallow in them. I have used my writing. I've taught myself over the last 10 years or so. I've been journaling for 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
I've been,
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't been easy because, when I go back and look at my journals from 5-6 years ago, I'm like,
It will be like, I mean, is this really me? That kind of a
it's so
feeling. It's
cringy.
just, yeah, I do that too at times.
Yeah.
Certain special occasions where I'm really broke, I feel that emptiness. When I do write it, well, after a year or so, if you just open it up and read it, is what? Is this really
What is this
me?
drama?
Exactly. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
writing or
Yeah.
journaling is extremely important to keep that balance going.
Mhm.
Shraddha, I can't believe you're just 25 and you spoke so well. You've added so
Thank
much
you.
value to Maitreya today on your story. I can't wait to
Thank you.
have a lot of podcasts with you. I'm extremely happy. Thank you for being such a source. I must tell you, you've added a lot of value to me personally, to the channel personally. I want to see you grow to the person you really want to become. All the very
Thank
best to
you.
you. Yes.
Thank you.
Stay
I'm
healthy, stay happy,
currently,
keep inspiring.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say that everything that I'm doing is in service to myself.
Mhm.
And while that does sound selfish,
Mhm.
I know that the idea of serving myself
Mhm.
also means serving those around me, because everybody who interacts with me is
Mm.
interacting with the very best version of me right now.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I mean, I had to fake it till I make it,
Mm.
but
Yes.
I'm here now and I'm
This is what it
happy and I'm
is.
giving you my best. This is what it is.
Yes.
And I'm glad
100%.
that I got this platform to share my story.
Yes.
Thank you for listening
Thank
and
you so
to
much for coming in. Thank you. That's an
cool.
amazing story. Yes, you're in still the chapter two, I must say, maybe chapter one, chapter two. You still have a lot of chapters to go. So all the
Yep,
best to
yep.
you. Want to see you
Thank
grow
you.
and also can't wait to have more podcasts with you. Thank you.
I'm looking forward
Thank
to
you
it.
so
Thank
much.
you so much. Keep
Thank
well.
thank you.